We believe Americans should decide American elections, period. But Donald Trump will do anything to get reelected, including violating the most basic forms of democracy. It's stunning and it's dangerous because it directly threatens our democracy. This is not hyperbole. It's a fact. No president in American history has ever dared to engage in such unimaginable behavior. With his words and his actions, President Trump has indicted himself by obstructing justice, refusing to comply with the congressional inquiry. He's already convicted himself. In full view of the world and the American people, Donald Trump has violated his oath of office, betrayed this nation, and committed impeachable acts. To preserve our Constitution, our democracy, our basic integrity, he should be impeached. That's not only because of what he's done. To answer whether he has committed acts of sufficient to warrant impeachment is obvious. He believes if he does something, it's legal, period. And perhaps most importantly, he believes there is nothing we can do about it. He believes he can and will get away with anything he does. We all laughed when he said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and get away with it. It's no joke. He's shooting holes in the Constitution, and we cannot let him get away with it.
Hello, I just wanted to come on here quickly and talk to you all about a great new development. Yesterday, Justice Alito moved up the deadline for a Supreme Court briefing in a Pennsylvania lawsuit that could potentially flip the election. And that's important because the deadline was related to the safe harbor window for how long you had to bring this case up. So this is the backstory on that. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court last Saturday evening reversed a lower court's block on certifying the state's election issued Friday night, dismissing with prejudice a lawsuit brought by Republican candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives that sought to have the results nullified over constitutional concerns about a 2019 change in absentee ballot rules. So the lower court tried to block the certification, and then the Supreme Court overruled that ruling. And the plaintiffs in this case are two Republican representatives, and one is a Republican congressional candidate, Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell. And just wanted to look at this. So Justice Alito, he had previously called for a response from Pennsylvania to be filed by Wednesday, December 9th at 4 p.m. And yesterday morning, the justice moved up the deadline to Tuesday, December 8th by 9 a.m. So what that would do is, says Law and Crime has previously reported, and as Kelly's arguments point out, federal election law sets a so-called safe harbor deadline, which requires controversies, quote, concerning the appointment of all or any of the electors by judicial or other methods or procedures to be determined at least 6 days before the time fixed for the meeting of the electors. So this change in the deadline, if it had been stayed December 9th, he would have failed to take he would have failed to have that window, that safe harbor window that Alito needed in order to get the case presented in time. So there's some backstory on this that is worth also considering and knowing. I learned about this from Steve Turley's video. He talked about this article by Alexander Macris called "Why Trump Will Triumph in Pennsylvania Litigation." And one of the things here, so these changes, there have been some electoral changes in Pennsylvania. First, there was Act 77, and then secondly, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made some changes in the deadline as to when these mail-in ballots could be accepted. So I'm just going to read this. It says, in 2019, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a law called Act 77 that permitted all voters to cast their ballots by mail, but, quote, unambiguously required that all mailed ballots be received by 8 p.m. on election day. The exact text is 2019, blah, 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 which stated, quote, no absentee ballot under this subsection shall be counted, which is received in the office of the County Board of Elections later than 8:00 p.m. on the day of the primary or election. So that's pretty, as Alito said, that's pretty straightforward. You have to have the mail-in ballots in by 8 p.m. on November 3rd for them to be counted. And then it goes on to say Act 77 also provided that if this portion of the law was invalidated, that much of the rest of Act 77, including its liberalization of mail-in voting, would also be void. And that is according to sections 1, 2, 3, 3.2, 4, 5, 5.1, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12 of this act. If any provision of this act or its application to any person or circumstance is held invalid, the remaining provisions or applications of this act are void. So that would mean that those mail-in ballots received after 8 p.m. would have to be thrown out. But beyond that, it would also change the mail-in ballots that were received because of Act 77 liberalizing the mail-in voting. So that would be a lot of votes. It would make a huge difference in the numbers and the numbers that Trump could get. So there's a second part of this backstory related to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. It says, in the face of this clear text, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, by a vote of 4-3, made the following decrees summarized here by SCOTUS. 1, mailed ballots don't need to be received by election day. Instead, ballots can be accepted if they are postmarked on or before election day and are received within 3 days thereafter. And 2, a mailed ballot with no postmark or an illegible postmark must be regarded as timely if it is received by that same date. So that contravenes and goes against Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution that says the legislature is the only one that can make changes in how elections are conducted. That just expressed because the courts can't make changes in how elections are conducted. So, and I think Alexander Macris makes a good point here. He says, now, if you are conservative, you are already angry. You despise this method of jurisprudence, which elite Harvard lawyers might call living constitutionalism, and you believe that judges should enforce laws as written by lawmakers. You believe this case never should have gotten to SCOTUS because what the state Supreme Court did was egregious. I definitely believe it was egregious because these Supreme Court justices in Pennsylvania, they know the Constitution. They were perfectly aware that these changes in mail-in ballots, accepting them if they're postmarked by election day, that you can accept them if they come in up to 3 days after the election, that is unconstitutional. That's not what Act 77 said. Act 77 expressly said all mailed ballots should be received by 8 p.m. on election day. Boom, that's it. There's no ambiguity there. So back in November, Alito ordered those ballots that were received after 8 p.m. to be separated in the state of Pennsylvania. And so those ballots, again, we know that's going to be a lot of ballots because on the 3rd of November in the evening, Trump was up by 700,000 votes. So in the mail-in ballots, they had to make up a lot of votes in order to win the election. So to quote unquote win the election, I should say. So anyway, I think that's a great indication that Justice Alito is willing to fight the fight for the Constitution. And he's made some great decisions in the recent cases that he's dealt with in Pennsylvania. So that's all I've got for today. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
you.